All right, so let's look at algebraic proof. Y'all have taken algebra, so you should maybe know a little bit about solving equations. When we solve equations, we do these properties and we just don't think about them. We just do them. So what we want to do is we want to try to start to set up like two-column proofs. Because in geometry and logic, we have to be able to prove things are true. And so to do that, I think it's just easier to start with looking at algebra proofs, because really you already know how to do this. It's just writing out the steps. So let me show you. The given is always the beginning part of our whatever we're given, right? So if we look here, I'm given this equation, right? So since I'm given that equation, that's going to be my first statement in a two-column proof. Okay? So it's my first statement in a two-column proof. My reason will be the given because it's been given to me, right? So I'm just doing this, okay? So the left side is the statements, the right side is the reason for getting that statement, okay? Since it was just brought to me, it's the given. It's the original information that they gave me. We have to start with something. So we start with a given. Now, if you look at this, there's a way to solve this. And what I would do first is I would take that 1/5 and I would distribute it through, right? Now, when I distribute it, you would normally show all of your math here and you would do all of this stuff. But that's not how we want to do a two-column proof. We want to clean it up. We don't want to have any of our math there. We just want to have the answers. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute that. When I distribute the 1/5, that becomes 1/5 A. And when I take 1/5 times 10, that becomes 2, which is equal to -3. So instead of showing all of that math, we're just writing our answer for the next step. Now, we have to go, we have to show all of our steps, right? We can't skip steps. And the reason why is because two-column proofs are really just a set of directions for getting from one point to the end. And so what I'm actually trying to do here is I'm trying to get A by itself, right? And so in an algebra proof, the set of directions is, how do I get from this point to this point? How do I get from my original equation to my answer, which is the solving of a variable? Okay, but I gotta have a reason for number 2, right? So how did I get that? How did I get the second statement? Well, I used the distributed property, right? So we just want to write that. Okay? All right, so then what would my next step be? When I look at this, I see A is on the left side of the equal sign. So to get rid of the 1/5 and the 2, we have to move those, right? So to do that, though, we want to first move the 2. And since I'm looking at this and it's a positive 2, that means I'm going to have to subtract 2 over to the other side. So that means my third statement is going to be 1/5 A equals -5. You may say, well, how'd you get that? Well, I just took that 2 and I subtracted it off over to that -3. -3 minus 2 is -5. Since I subtracted, that's what I'm going to write here. Subtraction, you can just put subtract. It's a property of equality. It's a property of equality because we're looking at equations and we're moving something from one side to the other. So I'm subtracting it here and subtracting it here. Okay? All right, now our last step is either to multiply or to divide. The real mathematicians would tell you to multiply. And so that's what you should do. So I should be multiplying both sides by 5, or that would make it, or we would be dividing by 1/5, right? So we're going to multiply both sides by 5, or we're going to divide by 1/5. Any rate, when I multiply both sides by 5, or I divide both sides by 1/5, I'm going to get -25. So now I have A equaling -25. Now how did I get that? Well, it's up to you. You could have divided, you could have multiplied. So I'm just going to put them both here. Division / multiplication property. And again, it's of equality because remember, we're looking at equations. All right, so I have a set of directions now. I started with a given. I've gotten to where my A is by itself, and I have all the steps in between. And that's what an algebraic proof looks like. So anytime you have to do that, that's what it's got to look like.